で、どうすんの、ジョゼさん。行くの？行かないの？
We all have fears. Some that are completely irrational and others that make considerable sense. Somewhere in the middle of that range is the fear of opening up to others. For many, it can be a significant challenge because relying on someone else takes away at least some of our personal control. Yet, measuring it objectively, the very fabric of why we thrive as people is cooperation. Few things aren't better when done together. It's something that watching Josee the tiger and the fish really made me take to heart. This 2020 film is so much more than a love story or even a tale of personal development. It's a film that vividly paints why accepting people into your life is so important. The change it can bring about within you, contrary to what you may think, is incredibly self-empowering. Watching two people come together, not just through a common interest, but through a desire to experience life to its fullest, was beautiful.
ただ飯食いに上がり込んできたんや。
よく餌あげてるの？
お前のことや。
え？
Kumiko, or Josee, is introduced as a character who has locked herself away from those outside her familiar bubble. Living only with her grandmother, she has experienced a fairly sheltered life through no fault of her own. This does cause a rather warped view of society, assuming it is far more threatening or dangerous than it actually is. Josee's response to this is building an invisible barrier around herself, yet deep down she is someone who dreams of exploration, doing and seeing everything that life has to offer. This feels impossible to her now, not only because of her disability, but her fear of being hurt by the outside world. When Josee first meets Sueno, she views him as an intruder in her life, very literally voicing this through the stray cat that stays in her house. He is someone who has many opposite personality traits and actively strives to live outside the box, seen through his goal of studying abroad. When Sueno visits the first few times, Josee stays behind her bedroom door and commands him from afar, viewing him as someone who only turns up for the money. Obviously there's an element of truth in this, but what Josee doesn't understand is that it doesn't void him of empathy. After Josee disappears from her home and Sueno finds her, she presents an ultimatum that he takes her to the sea. The way she puts forward this demand showcases that she doesn't understand how to just ask a favour. It all stems from that fear of others, holding the idea that people only want to do stuff in their interest. And how can you ask someone to do something if that's the case? That's why she puts it this way. While almost walking away at that moment, Sueno decides to take Josee, having seen her love for aquatic things through the drawings in her room. I think the next part of the film is a highlight because it presents a visible shift in Josee, both her personality and the relationship that slowly begins to flourish with Sueno. Josee labels Sueno as a servant because it makes for an excuse to lower her barrier. What she didn't anticipate was just how it would begin to shape a different perspective on the world. At the coast, she finally gets to do something she has wanted to do for a very long time, something as simple as tasting seawater. But it is the meaning that is encapsulated in this moment, the sensation of answering a question you have pondered for so long, finally getting to enjoy what she has been concealed from, and what most people have taken for granted. Josee experiences a new freedom possible only through Sueno. It also creates a wave of strong emotions within Josee, many of which she hasn't felt before, including the first stages of love. The roadblock to this is seeing Mai, one of Sueno's friends, at the shop he works at. Their closeness causes Josee to become flustered and confused, herself not quite understanding why she feels like this. And this scares her. because like I said, Josee has lived with a barrier around her for the longest time and is starting to notice cracks. But it's from within this vulnerability that there is a noticeable growth in maturity for Josee. She instructs her grandmother to tell Sueno not to show up anymore, yet continues to do many of the things that she had only started doing because of him. At the library she was introduced to, she tries reading The Little Mermaid to some kids, but struggles to capture the imagination of the crowd. Afterwards, one of the kids asks what the palace in the book looks like, and Josee describes it through her most talented medium, her art. We knew Josee could draw from when Sueno entered her room, but this is the first time she has voluntarily presented it to someone else. It shows how her confidence is growing, and she can't ignore that that spark came from Sueno. After the two meet again, there is a line that Josee says to her grandmother that really encapsulates the movement of this film.
Kumiko!
ばあちゃん、外は怖いだけやないで。
It's a far cry from where she was personally at the start of the film, and her grandmother's response is elation. It shows that this is exactly what she wanted Josee to have, a life worthy of her ambition. Josee's grandmother does play a unique role in this film. At first, I thought she was just an extension of the barrier that was causing Josee's entrapment, but this moment clears that idea completely. It shows that her position has always been wanting Josee to have a life full of motion. The next scene at the zoo is another important moment and allegorically rich. Josee has a highly rational fear of tigers because despite appearing elegant, they are powerful animals that you never really want to get too close to. The fact that Josee is able to be in front of one is showing of her commitment to break free from this fear. She now has someone to hold on to give her the strength to be brave, even when facing something that genuinely frightens her. We've actually heard Josee describe people as tigers earlier in the film.
トラ。
え？
トラだらけや。
トラ？
At that moment, she almost gave up going to where she wanted to go because, like tigers, humans are, in her mind, solitary and unpredictable. But Sueno really has taught her that behind this facade, there are people who do care and want to help you be the best you can be. After all, if someone doesn't like you, why would they put in the effort to get to know and understand who you are? At this point, it is apparent that Josee is a different girl to who she was at the start of the film. Even if she still calls Sueno a servant, clearly he matters to her on a level that is significantly deeper than that. Then, in a saddening development, Josee's grandmother passes, and she is left in a state of anguish. For most of her life, her grandmother has been a pillar of stability that provided a companionship in a world she felt was against her. Even with Sueno by her side, in many ways this event causes her to relapse back into a protective shell. She tells Sueno that she can't pay him anymore, to which his reaction shows clearly that he had almost forgotten this element of the relationship. I haven't actively spoken much about Sueno, but his role is equally as important as Josee to what I believe is this film's core message. This becomes particularly prominent in the second half. Sueno has a full understanding of what he wants and is willing to do anything to achieve it. He is definitely hardworking, and it seems like nothing could ever hold him back. But that isn't how life works. No one is invincible to what it can throw at you, and things constantly change. Why is this important? Because Josee is the catalyst for this change. Sueno becomes very close with Josee. While he still absolutely holds the dream of studying abroad, there is now someone else in his life that is of considerable value to him. In many ways, he still doesn't understand her, why she does certain things or reacts so joltingly. But it's clear the money stopped becoming the reason Sueno spent time with Josee long before she informs him that she can't provide that anymore. Following this, when Mai finds Josee, Their interaction causes the most significant retraction of all the progress Josee has made. Mai's words really hurt her and justify why she was always so protective to begin with. Of course, Mai doesn't actually understand all the stuff that Josee and Suino have been through together and how it has moulded both of them. Sadly though, the efforts are still felt to the point that Josee feels the need to give Suino an ultimatum yet again. The second journey to the sea radiates a low spirit and loss of hope, contrasting the intense warmth we felt as an audience the first time. This time, it is the setting for which Josee unloads everything she has done in response to what has happened, effectively rejecting the path to her dreams and embracing what she assumes is insurmountable reality. This really affects Suino because of the features of his personality I mentioned earlier. He cannot accept a Josee that feels this way. After she leaves and rain begins to fall, he makes the decision to go after her. However, in trying to save Josee from a road accident, he himself gets hit. Suino eventually finds out the unfortunate nature of this incident, being told he may never fully recover. This crushing feeling is only made worse by a visit from his professor, informing him that he shouldn't study abroad in the spring because of his condition. All of this causes Suino to withdraw from everything that makes up who he is. Why bother making positive strides if it is all for nothing? Faced with complete desolation, he gives up on what is important to him. For Josee, this similarly causes a feeling of hopelessness. Not only does she feel partly responsible, but she has lost the flame that provided such a bright light in her life. But everything that has happened up until this moment has left a mark on Josee, one that could never possibly be forgotten. It creates a drive from within her to want to see that flame again, to compel Suino to be the best he can be in the same way he did for her. This leads into the most uplifting beat of the film, a scene that captures so perfectly the importance of letting others be a part of who you are. Josee again reads a story to the children at the library. This time, however, it is one she has crafted, and despite not being the best at telling the story, it is through the power of her imagery that she creates a compelling narrative, not just for the children, but for Suino. The story itself is symbolic of what we've witnessed as an audience, the journey of the film, if you will. And it's through hearing how Suino gave Josee the wings she needed to truly be set free that he gains the strength to again return to who he was. The film ends as you probably expected it to. It's a happy ending to a heartwarming story, and I have to say, from start to finish, Josee the Tiger and the Fish is dignified, expertly crafted, and beautifully presented. However, what is actually surprising to me is none of that makes it my perfect anime film. Instead, that comes from how it managed to really speak to me on an elementary yet utterly crucial level. Existence itself is boundless. Yes, there are very real individual barriers that sometimes we cannot do much about, but simultaneously, the mind is a powerful beast, and probably the most inhibiting thing to our personal growth. So the best thing we can do is have an external force, a body to laugh with and a shoulder to cry on. As the quote goes, surround yourself with people who push you to be your best self. Through this, we can truly become who we want to be and leave an impact on others. This, for me, is why Josee the Tiger and the Fish is the perfect anime film. I've been Russ, and have a great night or day.